Welcome to the not quite live Enduring Word YouTube question and answer time. This is normally our Thursday afternoon question and answer time. This one happens to be pre-recorded for a time where, for whatever reason, I can't make it. But I'm here together with my friend and colleague, Lance Ralston. Lance, here we are in the new studio. What do you think?
Love it. It's been a lot of work. About 3 months.
You have put a lot of work into it. I've put no work into this, but it's an amazing setup, and we'll see how this works.
Yeah, learned a lot. Felt like I was in over my head a lot on this, but getting up to speed. Looking forward to it.
So I'll still be producing videos from my home from time to time, but we're going to be using this studio a lot. Right. I'll be using it, you'll be using it, and then collectively we'll be doing more and more videos together.
Right. We have 2 sets here. We have a single presenter set in another room, and then this more kind of a discussion set. And we'll hopefully be able to do some live Q&As here as well. We're recording this one, even though it's live. And the reason why is that way when David is on travel and unable to do it live on location, we'll have one kind of in the can, if you will, that we can use.
I do love doing those Q&As on location whenever I can.
Yep.
You know, I did Argentina, Brazil, other travels that I make. Hopefully in the coming weeks, I'll be able to do one from Germany and then maybe again from the Philippines, although I don't know what it is with the time there. We'll figure all that out.
Yeah, sometimes you're in the middle of the night.
I don't want to get up in the middle of the night to do a Q&A.
No. I remember the one that we did when we were in Petra, visiting Petra.
Yes.
Yeah. And you did one in our hotel room there. Yeah.
I do remember that. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Vividly.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, David, let's get to the questions. What is the Bible's position on the military, and specifically Nada wants to know the modern military? Does the Bible have a position on that?
Well, first, let's talk about the military in general.
Okay.
Interestingly, Jesus, who, Jesus is the source of those amazing passages such as Sermon on the Mount, where he tells us, not to strike out against the person who insults us, to forgive, to love, to lay down our lives for others. Jesus, when people came to him and asked, what about our career in the military? The response was, well, do your job honestly. Mm-hmm. Do it well. He didn't tell them, look, if you want to follow me, you got to leave the military. And military people in the New Testament are almost always put in a positive light. The centurions are noble, good figures. I think there's kind of some underlying reason for that in Luke and in Acts, but that's another matter altogether. But isn't it interesting is that they're usually not presented as bad guys at all. But if nothing else, they're noble. I mean, even the centurion that supervised the execution of Jesus,
right?
He is ennobled by the recognition, surely this was the Son of God. Mm-hmm. So there's not like a general attitude that's negative towards the military. We could say that in one sense, it's like other professions where it's just incumbent upon the believer who's in that profession to do it with honesty and integrity and righteousness before the Lord. And that would include that if a military person is given an order that is to commit sin or to promote unrighteousness, then it's their Christian duty to refuse that order.
Okay.
So those are some general things to keep in mind. I think that there is something good and right and noble for people who have a career in the military. But just like with any other job, they realize that their final allegiance is to God and that they cannot use their position in the military as a cover and excuse for sin, even if that means following orders that come to them as being sinful or wrong on the mark. If I remember right, C.S. Lewis wrote this in Mere Christianity, how of all the ways to die for what at least you believe to be a noble cause, and in comradeship with others who believe the same thing, and oftentimes for the sake or in assistance with your comrades around you, your friends, your fellow soldiers around you. That's actually, among the different ways to die, that's a pretty altruistic way to die. I don't know if it quite meets in every way that thing that Jesus said about laying down your life for the friends. Mm-hmm. But even if it doesn't meet it perfectly, it's certainly in that direction.
Romans chapter 13 does make a case for the state to use violence, if you will, the power of the sword for the restraint of evil.
Yes.
Now, a lot of times that's used in reference to law enforcement.
Well, that's because that's in our context.
Yes.
But in ancient Rome, did they have a police force?
No.
Who exercised police powers?
The soldiers.
Yeah.
Yeah. There might be a city watch. It would kind of really depend on the area and the region, but it isn't so finely parsed.
Right.
The idea there is that God ordains the power of the sword, and it's not the flat edge that's used, it's the sharp edge of the sword that's used for the restraint of evil. There's another part of it there that I think often gets left out, and that's and for the rewarding of the good.
Yes.
I think that a good way to balance the military side of government is if government were to be a bit more proactive in honoring those citizens and those endeavors within their society that are seeking to promote that which is good. It would be, I think, a little bit more balanced if government were to take a more active role in that aspect. But clearly there is a mandate that we find an affirmation of that in Romans chapter 13, where Paul speaks of the power of the sword being given to the civil government.
Yes.
For the restraint of evil and the protection of its citizens.
Spot on. Now, all that's being said, I think that there's nothing inherently ungodly. Nothing. Matter of fact, if you want to take that Romans 13, it describes that person as being God's minister.
Right.
You know, they're serving the Lord. However, we would give definite room in the Christian world for what you might call the conscientious objector.
Of course.
The person who says, no, it just simply goes against my conscience, I can't do it. We would say, well, then don't go against your conscience. Find a way to remove yourself from eligibility for military service.
And there have been a number of Christians throughout history who have been in the military who have expressed a conscientious objection to murder, to killing, but have found other ways to serve within the military.
All right, well, let me call you on that. You corrected yourself, but first you said murder.
Okay.
We would call killing exercise in a just war. Right. We wouldn't call that murder.
Correct.
Because murder is unlawful or unjustifiable killing.
Executing human beings.
Right. No, you corrected yourself with killing, but I just wanted to think is because that's something that critics would say.
Right.
They would call all killing in war murder. But the idea of the just war as it's been developed in Christian theology, and again, even more importantly, the New Testament, it just doesn't present that perspective.
That's two aspects I want to ask about. Just if you could speak just real briefly on the idea of just war and the development of just war theory within the context of Christian theology.
Lance, you know a lot more about Christian history than I do, but I can't remember all the points. Are there 6 points to a just war?
I think Augustine came with was 4. I think it was 4.
Okay, it has to be in a righteous cause.
Right.
It has to have the potential for winning, for victory. It can't be just like a thing. It has to be. Is the civilian aspect included in that?
You have to differentiate between soldiers and civilians. Yes.
And then what's fourth aspect?
The amount of force necessary to accomplish the objective.
Not excessive force.
Right.
And it's been understood that those are general criteria by which you can estimate a just war. And listen, we would say this, Lance, you and I, we're Americans. We're very grateful that our YouTube channel has an international audience. But we can just speak as Americans. We would say that not every war the United States has fought would necessarily be considered a just war.
No. Correct. Yeah.
But there have been examples of just war that the United States has participated in.
Yeah. So the question that Nada in particular asked specifically about is there justification for the modern military. So what do you have any thoughts on that? I have a couple, a few.
Well, I would say, because to me, I don't know that things in the modern military, and I'd be interested to get your perspective on this, but my immediate reaction is things haven't changed on principle,
Right.
on extent, on lethal potential. All that stuff has changed, but on principle, I don't see that it has changed. What are your thoughts?
So my thoughts on, and I thought it interesting, specifically the modern military, is I think the concern here is that fourth issue that we just talked about is the application of only enough force to accomplish the objective. We have developed weapons of mass destruction that have the potential of literally, if there was a large-scale war and the use of these weapons, of wiping out all life on Earth. And I understand the concern about, so is that justified? Is it right to make those weapons? I think this is a challenging question in light of evil. The production of those weapons, if it keeps that evil from expressing itself, then they're justified not to be used, but if the possession of them by a nation like the United States, having nuclear weapons, stops a terrorist regime from going to war against another country or ourselves, then their possession is justified, because what it's doing is it's actually restraining if in Romans 13 God gives the power of the sword to the state and it's the sharp edge that's used, those weapons are like a very sharp edge.
You know, very sharp, a very big edge too.
A very big edge.
You know, Lance, this is different than the normal Q&As I do. I'm just talking to the camera or whatever.
Right.
Here we get to discuss.
Yeah.
I don't know if people are tuning in or tuning out, but who cares? We're having a good time.
We're having a good time.
Okay, so Lance, were nuclear weapons a good thing in the Cold War?
Well,
and in a sense, I would say they were. Their unilateral disarmament during the Cold War would have been a foolish thing for the United States, or the Western world, let's just say, the United States, to do.
yes.
And it's good that we didn't do it. And the possession of nuclear weapons on the part of the United States and its allies was a good thing during the Cold War.
Right.
Now, I would be the first one to admit, if there was a magic wand that could be waved and all nuclear weapons were absolutely eliminated, that would be a good thing.
I think there's been some science fiction movies on that.
Yeah, well, that would be a good thing.
Yeah.
So things that can be done to reduce the number of nuclear weapons is good. But if bad people or potentially bad people are going to have them, then people who can stand up to them and oppose them, even if they're not entirely good, it's good for them to have them.
That's been the rationale.
Yeah.
And so the question, is it right to have a military, specifically a modern military? The assumption there, I guess, is the weapons of mass destruction that a military like that has, if in the right hands.
Yeah.
In the right hands. If it's used for the restraint of evil, Romans 13, then it's biblical and it's right.
But you know, Lance, it just makes you think that this is another reason why people believe Jesus Christ is coming soon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is it conceivable? And I'm not saying is it possible. I mean, anything's possible.
Mm-hmm.
But is it really conceivable that humanity can go another 100 or 200 years without a widespread nuclear exchange?
Well,
you would just feel like it's got to happen sometime.
Ezekiel 38 and 39 seem to be, to many people, some kind of limited nuclear exchange. So
we're coming up, about 80 years now since the only two nuclear weapons that have been performed in war,
right.
by the United States against the Empire of Japan. And it hasn't happened since in wartime.
Right.
How long can that continue?
Yeah, and now we have biological and chemical agents as well, which are scary. I mean, when you hear about the effects of these things,
Come quickly, Lord Jesus.
And the world is not getting better.
No,
It is not. No, it's not.